Namaste, everyone. Welcome back. We have two speakers in this session. To introduce the speakers, I invite Sachi here. Sachi is a research associate with Anadi Foundation. She works on the Hitayu and Sukhayu project, which is to do with well-being, wellness, and also Ayurveda. And she has an MA in clinical psychology, and she's been doing some fantastic work documenting the experiences of people and how they experience well-being. So some very interesting results are coming out of her research. So I now invite Sachi to introduce the speakers, and then we will move on to the session.
Dhanyavad, ma'am. Namaste, esteemed speakers and all the participants joining us today. I'm Sachi Anjankar, and I once again welcome you all to this enriching online symposium on traditional knowledge-based education by Anadi Foundation. For this session, as ma'am mentioned, we have two remarkable speakers who will be sharing Incan perspective from Argentina, South America. Our first speaker, Francisco Lopez Riverola, is a co-founder of Sunflower Sutras, and he is an Argentinian communicator with the passion for poetry, ancestral traditions, and the natural world. Francisco has been working with the plant medicine and ceremony for past 5 years and learning from different masters and indigenous communities in South America, and has a mindfulness instructor by the GGSC. He is interested in the synergy between the contemplative practices and ethnographic work. He most recently apprenticed with Curandero Alonso del Rio in Peru, and where he will be returning to deepen his studies and carry out Sunflower Sutras documentation projects. Following Francisco, we will be hearing from John Nicolas Sumire, and distinguished primary education teacher, musician, and scholar of Andean culture. Also the director at Vinay Park Educational Institution in the Paisag district, Casco, Peru. He's a speaker in a series of courses and workshops and aim at students of tourism, pedagogy, and teachers. He has also represented in different cultural events in Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela. So this session will be of 30 minutes, followed by a 15 minutes interaction session for all the audience questions. Without a further delay, please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Francisco. Over to you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Sachi. And thank you to the Anadi Foundation for having us today. We're waiting on Nicolas, who is the director of the Vinay Park School. He's just a little bit late, but he will be joining us very soon. So I'll just speak a little bit about the work that we're doing with Sunflower Sutras and how we met Nicolas. And then I will give it on to him and translate for him because he knows much more about this subject. So, just to start, I must clarify that I am not an indigenous person. I was born and raised in Argentina, but I am just doing this work as an ally to indigenous communities. So if I may share my screen, which it looks like I can, perfect. I would like to show you, I think you can see it. So this is just a brief introduction flyer to what we do. So who we are in Sunflower Sutras is a multimedia educational platform conceptualized within the UC Berkeley ecosystem composed of students, alumni, researchers, and healers from different traditions and backgrounds. And I can see Nicolas is here with us now. Hola, Nicolas. Espero que puedas escucharnos. Si es así, danos alguna señal de vida.
Hola, buenos días. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo está?
Gracias por estar acá. voy a hacer una breve introducción, Nicolás, y después te cedo la palabra y te aviso, ¿sí?
Perfecto, estamos ya listos.
Dale, muchas gracias. So our mission at Sunflower Sutras is we nurture the exploration of consciousness by weaving ancient spiritual practices with modern scientific knowledge. We seek to amplify the voices of researchers, healers, and experts from all traditions and backgrounds who work to preserve sacred knowledge or illuminate the complexities of human consciousness, to bring their communities closer to the realization of our ultimate nature and our interconnectedness with one another. And our vision is of a world in which people from all societies may openly and respectfully engage in dialogue around the spiritual traditions and practices that have composed the fabric of human experience throughout its history. We want to help bring forth a world in which an integrative exploration of consciousness and contemplative practices is accessible to all through their incorporation into education, health, and media institutions, enshrining the practice as our most fundamental and inalienable human right. So I wanted to share that for that everyone that can see this now live or later the recording knows a little bit of what we do, and if you want to collaborate somehow, we would love to get in contact with you. We think that the topic of education around indigenous knowledge is very important. In personal terms, I think that this intersection and this symposium and the work that Anali is doing is so important because it's for me it's an effort that touches on so many fronts that the world needs to reflect upon right now, because I believe Nicolás, si te pudieras mutear, bueno, creo que listo, ya está. Because I believe that me and many people believe that indigenous education can really help shift human consciousness and perspective towards a more holistic and balanced way of studying life. One of the things that I have been helping with in Peru is creating a course with Curandero Alonso del Rio. And in this course, which is about ancestral Andean knowledge, he says that in his perspective, the last 2,000 years, the world has taken a vantage point of like what we can call an analytic worldview, in which we have sought to atomize and separate reality into the smallest units of comprehension possible, believing that in this way we will know how to get control over the world. And he believes that this is part of the sickness, the current sickness of the human mind, which resides in the illusion of separation, right? That things are separate, and so since they are separate, the best way for us to comprehend reality is to divide it into the smallest units possible, into taking it to the atom, right? And he believes that this perspective permeates all of our disciplines, all of our knowledge systems, the way in which we interact with the world. And so he says that if we are standing from this point, then of course we are going to see everything as an outside object to be subjugated for our benefit, right? And so it makes sense that we're mistreating the world, we're mistreating animals, we're mistreating everything that is outside of us, even other human beings, and how this brings sickness to us because we don't understand that we are mistreating ourselves deep down. And so Alonso believes that the consciousness of humanity is now returning to a more integral and intuitive paradigm, and that indigenous knowledge, ancestral knowledge, is fundamental in that. And I share this feeling, and it's what I have been feeling and understanding. So I think that there's something not only for the sake of indigenous people and their communities in enshrining their knowledge, but also for the sake of all of humanity. Because I do feel that this knowledge and this feeling of having a knowledge system that rests upon the understanding that everything is interconnected and that we don't need to go down to the atom to understand the world and our relationship with the world. I think that's going to bring a lot of healing to all levels of understanding for humanity. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so moved to learn more about indigenous knowledge and to try to do whatever part we can play in protecting and promoting them. And then just one other small thing I would like to share before having a rich conversation with Nicolas is that we are currently creating a video for the CONAP. The CONAP is also a wonderful indigenous organization from Peru who I recommend you to check out. They are the Confederacy of Masonic Peoples of Peru. They represent over 900 indigenous communities in the Peruvian Amazon basin. And we were honored to be invited by them to visit one of their communities near Pucallpa in the Peruvian Amazon in the Cacheria River. And we stayed with them for around a week, filming a documentary about their lives. And we're now compiling a video for them to present at the COP 28, because they have been invited there to talk about climate change with an indigenous perspective. And I was editing the video yesterday and I came across a clip that I really liked in which Oseas Barbaran, who is president of this indigenous organization and also an important leader in that community, he was saying that he believes that the Western world is trying to, even today, colonize indigenous consciousness so as to take them away from their knowledge and their ways of living and putting them in some sort of trance or asleep. So as to take over their resources, their culture, their knowledge, right? So Oseas recognizes that the main battleground for them to resist is on the cultural level, is on the consciousness level, is on maintaining their knowledge and their traditions, on having autonomy, on how they teach their classes, on what content they can teach their children. And so I think that it's very important to not only help indigenous people on the material level and the resources level, which is very, very needed in places like Peru, but also on the cultural level and the educational level. And that's why I'm so excited to be here with Nicolas. Nicolas Sumire is the director of a beautiful, beautiful school. Oh, I'm sorry, we're getting a question. Shueta, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, is asking, what was the inspiration behind the name for your endeavor, Sunflower Sutras? I'm going to answer because it's a very cute story. When we were thinking about the name for the organization, we wanted something that could symbolize the coming together of Eastern and Western philosophies and paradigms. And we were really cracking our minds thinking about it. And then I remembered a poem by Allen Ginsberg, who is a poet that I love. And he wrote a poem called Sunflower Sutra. And Allen Ginsberg was poet, philosopher from Berkeley, California, which is also where we started the organization. And he was one of the psychedelic pioneers of the psychedelic Renaissance. And in the poem, he talks about a sunflower that is sprouting out of a junkyard, and the metaphor is like, from the junkyard of my civilization, from the mess that we have created in the Western world, in the United States, a sunflower that is seeking for the sun can still sprout. And we thought it was a beautiful metaphor. So that's a little of where it comes from. So anyways, as I was saying, Nicolas Sumire is the director of a beautiful, beautiful school in Peru, in the Sacred Valley, near Pisac. It's called Wiñaypac. And it's an intercultural school that I have had the privilege of visiting a few times and seeing their classes, how they work. And it's really revolutionary what they're doing, because it's not only that they are trying to teach the children about indigenous culture and history, but they are trying to teach and adapt every single class through a Quechua and indigenous perspective. So even their math system is based on the math system of the ancient Quechuas and the Incas. So it's really deep, the way in which they're doing it. And I don't want to say anymore because I don't know enough about it, but Nicolas can tell us all about it right now. So, Nicolás, acabo de presentar un poco a la escuela y el trabajo que hacen, pero sería muy lindo si quisieras primero introducirte, si quieres en la lengua quechua o como a ti te salga, y yo estaré traduciendo todo lo que nos quieras compartir. Gracias por estar bien.
Ya, Allilan mi Waiqei Francisco, Allilanchu Waiqepanaykuna kay teqsi muyumanta nuqapis kusisqankani, kay kunan p'unchay riqsinakushanchis, rimarisunchis, tinkunakusunchis. Bueno, muy contento, Francisco, y agradecido por esta oportunidad de compartir esta experiencia de Wiñaypas con hermanos de diferentes partes del mundo, ¿no? Entonces,
Perdón, Nicolás, hacete una pausa cada 10 segundos, así yo te traduzco, solo para que mantengamos el ritmo. So Nicolas
perfecto.
just presented himself in his indigenous Quechua language, saying hello to you, that he's very happy to be here, and that he's very happy to be able to talk about the school today.
Namaste, Nicolas. Very happy to have you as part of this. Welcome.
Nicolás, ella es Spiriti, que es la cofundadora de Anadi, está en la India en este momento, con una diferencia de como 15 horas con nosotros.
Sí, pues muchas gracias ahí por la paciencia. Quisiera que me habilite la pantalla para compartir algunas diapositivas. Ya.
Spiriti, can Nicolás share his screen? I believe he can, right?
Yeah, I will make him the co-host.
Thank you. Sí, ahora vas a poder, Nicolás.
Perfecto. Bueno, pregunto si ya se puede ver la pantalla.
Sí.
Ya. Perfecto. Entonces, el día de hoy voy a dar a conocer algunos aspectos sobre la experiencia educativa de Wiñaypas, que está ubicado en Pisac, Cusco, Perú. Nuestra escuela se ubica en el hermoso Valle Sagrado de los Incas, como pueden ver, en una parte intermedia, ¿no? Es un valle bastante especial que se dedica especialmente al trabajo agrícola, ¿no? Y en la parte baja, sí, en la parte baja podemos ver las instalaciones de la escuela, ¿no? Quiero empezar por el tema de nuestra diversidad. Para los sistemas educativos, pienso que a nivel mundial la diversidad es una traba, ¿no? Para el desarrollo, entre comillas, y para otras cosas.
Perdón, Nicolás, ¿me escuchas?
¿Sí? Sí.
Ah, bien, genial. Bien, recuerda que cada 8 segundos más o menos haz una pausa, así yo puedo traducir lo que vas diciendo.
Sí.
So Nicolás is saying that their school is located on the beautiful Inca Valley, as you can see on the pictures, and it tends mainly to the population there that are farmers. So most of the children that go to the school are sons and daughters of indigenous farmers of the area. Sí, Nicolás.
Sin embargo, para nosotros la diversidad es una riqueza, ¿no? El Perú es diverso, tiene diferentes culturas, diferentes lenguas y una diversidad también de productos alimenticios, entre otros.
However, for us, diversity is a fundamental attribute. Peru is a very, very diverse country in cultures, in offerings, in foods, and so this is something that we make a lot of focus on.
Esta diversidad nos permite a nosotros plantear una educación acorde a nuestras necesidades.
This diversity allows us to build an education that is according to the needs of Peru.
Puesto que el sistema oficial, digamos, tiene otros intereses y no necesariamente está de acuerdo con los intereses de las poblaciones indígenas.
Especially because the official government education system has other interests that don't care about indigenous necessities.
Por ello, nosotros empezamos con el proyecto educativo en el año 2006 de manera oficial, reconocido por el Ministerio de Educación.
We started this educational project in the year 2006 and was recognized by the official education system, which I may add is a very big accomplishment because there are many indigenous educational institutions, but most of them are not recognized by the official government. Nicolas.
Empezamos nosotros por nuestras cosmovisiones, ¿no? Nuestras diferentes formas de estar en este mundo, ¿no? Para nosotros los que decimos en esta pacha, ¿no? El espacio-tiempo.
So we begin by our cosmovision, the ways in which we are in the world, what we call our pacha, which is a Quechua term, our time. Pacha means earth though, but also our time.
Para nosotros los andinos, todo cuanto existe es sagrado y es dual.
For us Andean people, everything that exists is both sacred and dual.
¿Ya? El espacio-tiempo es dual, ¿no? La energía masculina, femenina es dual.
Masculine and feminine energy are dual.
Y todo ese pensamiento, esa filosofía, se resume en estas representaciones, ¿no? Ahí tenemos representaciones masculino, femenino. En este tejido que se muestra en la parte baja, tenemos la representación también de lo masculino, lo femenino, de repente en blanco y negro, ¿no?
So all of these philosophies, cosmovisions, are represented through these many expressions of their cultures, through their statues, through their weavings, through their ceramics, right? The duality and the sacredness of life.
Y la escalera y la espiral podría ser ya la síntesis de lo que hoy en día llamamos el espacio-tiempo, que para nosotros la pacha, que es uno solo, pero a la vez son dos.
Correcto. Y Nicolás, si no me equivoco, la escalera simboliza el espacio y el espiral el tiempo, ¿verdad?
Así es, ¿no? Entonces, hablamos de un tiempo no lineal. Para nosotros los andinos no existe el tiempo lineal, ¿no? Hablamos de un tiempo vectorial, perdón, de un tiempo cíclico, ¿no? El tiempo no es vectorial, es un tiempo cíclico. Entonces, ¿eso qué quiere decir? De que cada cierto tiempo, ¿no?, vuelven ciertas cosas, ¿no? Se van renovando. Entonces,
Déjame intentar traducir. So this is a beautiful concept of Andean culture. He's saying that for Andean people, time is not linear, but it's cyclical. And so a lot of Andean sculpture weavings have a very prevalent symbol, which is the spiral and the staircase. Sometimes they're combined, such as in a symbol that I believe is called Masintini. And so the staircase represents space, which is bound to the masculine spirit. And the spiral represents, the other way around. The staircase, which is space, is bound to the feminine energy, so the Pachamama. And then the spiral, which represents time, is bound to the masculine spirit, which is Pachacama. And so the combination of these two, space and time, make reality for them. But in their perspective, time is not linear, but it's cyclical. So every after a certain time, things come back. It's as if life goes through the same places over and over again. Nicolas.
Sí, así como decía que todo para nosotros es vivo, también es sagrado. Y una forma de relacionarnos, digamos, con lo sagrado es a través de estas sagradas hojas de coca que nosotros compartimos con los seres sagrados, ¿no?
Rupiah y Sonkoye.
Ya es un poco-
So Nicolas is saying that one way for Andean people to connect with the sacredness of life is through the coca leaf, which he just showed us. Nicolás, quizás la puedas acercar a la cámara si la pueden ver. Coca leaf is one of the most sacred medicines for Andean people. It's a small leaf. Más hacia la cámara. Ahí lo estamos. Muy bien. It's a small leaf that is grown in Peru and other parts of Latin America. Nicolas has just made a blessing for the coca and chewed it, and they chew it, and it's very good for oxygenating the blood and also as a sacred medicine. Sadly, coca leaf is forbidden in most parts of the world, especially in the United States, where it's very, very illegal because it can also derive into cocaine. It can be made into that, but for indigenous people, it's very sacred medicine. Nicolas.
Muchas gracias. Entonces, una característica de la escuela es que en la escuela no enseñamos religión, ¿no? Pero sí respetamos, digamos, nuestras formas de relacionarlos con lo sagrado, ¿no?
So Nicolas is saying that a very important principle of the school is that they don't teach religion, but they do teach ways of relating to the sacred.
Bien, continuamos entonces. Nuestra escuela está basado, diríamos, en pedagogías emergentes. Llamamos así porque son pedagogías de hace 100 años. Sin embargo, en esta parte del planeta, recién se empieza a hablar en algunos espacios, ¿no? Tenemos la pedagogía Waldorf, el Montessori, el método de Shinichi Suzuki, entre otros, ¿no?
So he's saying that their school uses a combination of ancestral knowledge and emerging pedagogies to structure the way they teach, mainly Waldorf, Montessori, and Suzuki methods.
Este es algo nuevo. Lamentablemente a los maestros, cuando se nos forma en las aulas así, de manera oficial, se nos habla muy poco, digamos, de estas corrientes pedagógicas.
He's saying that sadly, when teachers are formed in Peru, they are never taught or taught very little about these emerging pedagogies.
Solo se da importancia, digamos, a propuestas pedagógicas así actuales que son, digamos, entre comillas, convenientes para el sistema.
He's saying that the only pedagogies that are took are the ones that are taught by the government, are the ones that are convenient for the system. Y Nicolás, quizás sería pertinente en este momento hacer algún comentario sobre cómo las pedagogías que se enseñan son también colonizadoras y legados de la colonización, ¿no? Si es que tú lo sientes así.
Sí, obviamente, o sea, totalmente de acuerdo, ¿no? O sea, en casi todos los países que he visitado y todo, las pedagogías están ligados digamos, a sentidos patrióticos, pero por detrás está, digamos, este propósito de seguir colonizándonos, utilizándonos, ¿no?
So I just asked Nicolas if it would be relevant for him to comment on the colonizing ideology that rests behind the mainstream pedagogies and types of teaching. And he said that yes, that's a very noticeable things that everywhere he's traveled, because he's traveled all over the world, he can identify how the main pedagogies of teaching in the school have a colonizing legacy and perspective behind them, and they are just methods to continue the colonization of indigenous people, but also of other people around the world, even today.
Claro, es evidente que los sistemas educativos actualmente nos forman casi de forma militar, ¿no? O sea, con formaciones, uniformes, desfiles, el maestro es el que sabe todo, o sea, son formas totalmente neocoloniales, ¿no?
He's saying that these mainstream pedagogies are clearly neo-colonial in the sense that there's a military structure behind every single aspect of them, the uniforms, the formations, the blind obedience to the figures of authority, and the teachers as the only holders of knowledge.
Hasta los términos que se utilizan son crueles, ¿no? O sea, por ejemplo, el término alumno, ¿no? Dice que persona que no tiene luz, ¿no? O sea,
Sí.
es totalmente, sabemos de que para nosotros los andinos, los niños son personas completas, ¿no? O sea, no son incompletos. El sistema nos hace ver, digamos, de que el niño es algo incompleto, ¿no? Entonces, totalmente equivocado, digamos, a nuestra vivencia, a nuestra forma de vivir, ¿no? Entonces, el término alumno, por ejemplo, es cruel y es algo que debe de desterrarse totalmente de los sistemas educativos, ¿no?
He's saying that even at the semantic level, the word for student in Spanish, alumno, means he without light. It's a person without light. And he's saying for us, for the Andean people, children are complete human beings. But the mainstream pedagogies are trying to make us believe that a student of a child is someone who is incomplete and that must be completed through the education system. And he's saying this is a notion that we must exorcise from our education institutions.
Bueno, por nuestra parte, nosotros empezamos nuestras actividades haciendo un círculo niño-niña, a esto llamamos Juñunacui.
So he's saying that they begin all of their activities making a circle like the one you see in the picture, which is called Unanaki, where they hold hands.
Y para nosotros es súper importante tanto lo femenino y lo masculino. Así nos han enseñado los abuelos. Acá en estos restos arqueológicos podemos ver una construcción cuadrada que representa lo masculino y lo circular, lo femenino.
So he's saying that this complementation of the dualities in different categories such as masculine and feminine is very important for them in holding them with equal importance and in the mix that they bring, and that the whole Incan archaeology talks about this, and he's pointing out to these two sacred sites, one next to each other. One is square, one is circular, and there's always this balance in Incan tradition.
De esta manera, los mayores, las personas mayores, los ancianos, cumplían la rol más educativa, digamos, en tiempos ancestrales, ¿no? O sea, los abuelos eran y son los educadores por excelencia, ¿no? O sea, la educación no estaba encargada a una persona así específica, sino a los mayores, a los abuelos, quienes iban transmitiendo toda experiencia a los nietos. No es verdad de que en la época inca eran los ancianos quienes se encargaban de cuidar a los niños, mientras los que estaban en edad, digamos así, de trabajo productivo, iban trabajando ahí en la chacra o haciendo otras tareas, ¿no?
So he's saying that in Inca times, the elders have the very important task of raising and educating the children. And so for them, elders are keepers of knowledge that must be revered and that can really help transmit everything they've learned to the children.
Bien, continuamos. Entonces, podemos decir de que nuestra propuesta educativa es intercultural porque respetamos las diferentes culturas. Entonces, el respeto es importante para hablar de interculturalidad.
So he's saying that their proposal is for all things intercultural, because for them, respect for diversity is one of the highest virtues. And so in this graph, it's showing that it's intercultural, and there's many different cultures there. It's ecological, as the children there seem to be harvesting flowers and plants. It's integral, and it's inclusive.
Ujú. Es ecológica porque nuestros abuelos desde siempre han vivido en armonía con la naturaleza, ¿no? Y nosotros tratamos de practicar eh, rituales, todo que nos permita vivir en tranquilidad, ¿no?
He's saying that it's ecological because their ancestors always emphasized the importance of living in harmony with nature. And I've seen some very beautiful things in their schools, like they have, Nicolas, quizás tú puedes contar un poco mejor, pero ¿nos darías algún ejemplo de un proyecto como interclases ecológico? Yo recuerdo, por ejemplo, ese de los chicos que tuvieron que investigar una semilla o una
Ujú,
planta. Si
ujú.
brevemente nos cuentas.
Digamos, tomamos el término ecológico, ¿por qué? Porque, digamos, es una forma de hacernos entender cómo es nuestra relación, digamos, con todo el espacio que tenemos, ¿no? Entonces, eh, hablamos ecológico en el sentido de que a los niños se les habla de que, de este principio, ¿no? Que todos tienen derecho a la vida y merecemos respeto. Entonces ahí las plantas, los animales, ¿no? Son seres sagrados, por lo tanto, necesitan vivir en armonía con nosotros, ¿no? Entonces,
He's saying that
toda,
to them, all plants and animals are sacred beings, so it's important that they live in harmony with them. And so they introduce this perspective to all classes in many different avenues. And for example, one project that I saw in their school is they gave one plant to each of the children for them to investigate. And so like in literature, they would write a poem or a story about the plant. And in biology, they would study that plant. Each children would research them. And then they had another class where they would learn how to plant the plant, and they would grow their plant by themselves. And then months later, they would have a cooking class where they would learn how to cook and prepare a traditional dish with that plant that then they would serve to the parents and present the whole research. So it's a beautiful, they have this type of beautiful projects that cross all classes in which they are embedding a very deep respect for the children, for nature and the plants and the animals and their medicinal properties at the same time. Sí, Nicolas.
sí, también decimos que es integral, porque no por ser, digamos, una escuela que estamos alejados ahí de la población, dejamos de que los estudiantes tengan que aprender las ciencias, la tecnología. Entonces, podemos ser, digamos, andinos, pero también podemos estar enraizados en nuestra cultura, pero también es importante, digamos, aprender a utilizar la tecnología a nuestro favor, ¿no? O sea, para fortalecer nuestras culturas.
He's saying they are integral because even though they are deeply rooted in ancestral knowledge, they are also leaning into new technology so that children may be integrated into society in the modern world. And they have a whole room filled with computers so that the children can also learn about technology and how to use the computers. And it's quite a feat in such a rural area.
Uh-huh. Somos inclusivos porque también tenemos niños que tienen habilidades especiales y ellos también se incluyen con mucha facilidad en la escuela.
So he's saying that they're also inclusive because they also take children with all type of special abilities or conditions, and they always make space for them in the classroom, and they try to integrate them. I'm hearing someone talk. I don't know if someone. Oh, that's fine.
Sí, continuamos. Los aprendizajes básicamente están basados en ciclos, ¿no? O sea, todo tiene un ciclo. Esto es importante, ¿no? La actividad, digamos, una actividad empieza con el ciclo agrícola, tenemos el ciclo cósmico, los ciclos festivos que se incorporan a la escuela. Muchas veces la escuela está alejada de esta realidad, ¿no?
So this is very interesting. He's saying that the whole, what's the English word? The whole curriculum of the school is based upon the natural cycles of life that the Andean people observe. So this can be either the the agricultural cycle or the cosmic cycle. You know, there's many different types of cycles, but they organize their activities and their events around these cycles.
Por lo tanto, durante el año se van festejando diferentes eventos, ¿no? Festivos, cósmicos, así como el Inti Raymi, digamos, las siembras, las cosechas, y todo eso enriquece la labor educativa.
So he's saying, so throughout the year, we celebrate with the children the beginning and ending of many of these different cycles, such as the Inti Raymi, which is a very important Quechua tradition, which is the winter solstice. And he's saying, and these enrich our educational offering for the children.
Continuamos. Bueno, algo que siempre nos hace ver los sistemas educativos oficiales de que los pueblos tradicionales son atrasados y todo lo demás, ¿no?
So he's saying that a lot of people have perspective that indigenous people are kind of ignorant or are behind on the times. But as you can see on these pictures, you know, they also learn about astronomy, about molecular biology with telescopes. They have the computers, and they're doing, they constructed that thing, which I saw, it's beautiful. It's like this portable solar energy kitchen, and they cook their foods using the sun with this mirror device. So it's very Nicolas.
Sin embargo, podemos ver de que los saberes tradicionales, ¿no? Se pueden complementar y se pueden incorporar en la escuela, ¿no? Entonces, aprovechando la tecnología del telescopio, por ejemplo, nosotros trabajamos lo que es astronomía andina, ¿no? O aprovechando la computadora, trabajamos en base a investigar sobre nuestras culturas tradicionales, ¿no?
So he's saying that there's a way in which indigenous schools can combine modern technology and the ancestral knowledge to do a synergy between the two of them. So for example, they use their telescope to teach their children about Andean astrology and all the myths and things surrounding astrology. Or they use their computer to do investigation projects about things of the history of the Andean people or the Quechua traditions.
Claro, y la otra idea es aprovechar las tecnologías tradicionales que hoy en día vemos ante el cambio climático y todo cobran mayor vigencia, ¿no?
And so he's saying that these new technologies and these ways of using them are very relevant due to things like climate change.
Cuando decía vivimos los procesos, hacía mención, por ejemplo, al hecho de recoger las plantas, seleccionarlas y finalmente terminar en la elaboración de una medicina natural, por ejemplo, ¿no? Es todo un proceso que los niños tienen que conocer y saber, ¿no?
So he's saying that they also live their projects as processes stretched through time. And so he's giving an example here of where the children were taught how to pick and identify medicinal plants in the wild, and then how they would select them and process them in another classroom, and then how that would end by using those plants to elaborate natural medicines that the children then can use with their families.
Las actividades fuera del aula son muy importantes, ¿no? Como las visitas a los centros arqueológicos, los campos de cultivo, entre otros. Esto ayuda a que todo lo aprendido pueda ponerse en práctica, o en otros casos al revés, ¿no? Que todo lo que aprendimos fuera pueda venir para poder trabajarse en el aula.
And he's saying that it's an integral part for them to go teach the children outside of the classroom. So they pay a lot of importance to the visit of sacred archaeological sites, of places where they plant crops, or museums, or outside nature, because these are the places where the knowledge that the children have gathered in the classroom solidifies.
Para nuestra propuesta educativa tenemos, digamos, muy pocos materiales, de tal manera de que nos hemos visto obligados a elaborar nuestros propios materiales educativos. Ahí tenemos el juego del tocapu, el rompecabezas con colores y formas totalmente armónicos y acordes a nuestra realidad, ¿no?
So he's saying that they struggle with materials because obviously they are pioneers in what they're doing, and so there are no textbooks to teach these things. There's no games. There's no classroom materials. So they have been forced to be very creative and create all of their own materials to teach the children about these knowledges. And so the one in the bottom right, I watched it. They show me that in the classroom, and it's incredible. It's a board game that they created based on an ancient Andean pattern design system called tocapus, which are very complex geometrical designs, such as the one we see on the vase, which are joined to transmit, important things about knowledge or their cosmovision. And so they created a game, and it's super complex, in which they took some of these famous ancestral designs and they printed it on a board in a way that the children can combine these like puzzle pieces to create much more complex designs that mean different things in Andean cosmovision. And it's just really beautiful. Sí, Nicolás.
Felizmente en esa parte tenemos un rico aporte de las culturas pre-incas para trabajar el tema de composición en arte, lo que es la geometría, conceptos básicos, hasta llegar hasta los conceptos de lo que es la geometría a niveles mucho más complejos, pasando por la geometría sagrada, entre otras, ¿no?
So he's saying that they have a very rich legacy of their ancestral traditions, which they have found a way to use to teach their children about geometry, for example, and design and art at the same time, while at the same time teaching about sacred geometry.
A lo largo del año, aparte de la parte académica, tenemos diferentes talleres de música, teatro, danza, pintura, entre otros. Lo más importante de repente es el taller de música con SICUS.
So he's saying that they also have a lot of artistic and cultural offerings for the children that include dancing and painting, but maybe one of the favorite of the children is the one with sicuris, which is a traditional Andean instrument that you can see there, kind of like a flute thing.
Sí, una característica de este instrumento es que es dual. La imagen de la cultura mochica nos muestra de que ambos instrumentos se complementan y representan lo masculino, lo femenino, pero a la vez también toda una familia, ¿no? Como se puede ver en la imagen. Están los niños, los jóvenes, los ancianos, ¿no? Y todos ellos son indispensables para hacer música, ¿no?
So he's saying that this instrument has a very dual nature as well. And so they teach a lot of that dual communion to the children through it. Nicolás, me informan que nos quedan solamente unos 3 minutos y que si estarías dispuesto a tomar algunas preguntas. Así la gente puede hacerte preguntas. ¿Sí?
Perfecto, ahí termino con los diferentes talleres de arte que tenemos, cerámica, pintura, entre otros.
Yeah. So he's saying that he just wants to show at the end these art workshops that they have, and then he can take a few questions from you. These are more photos from the classes in the school.
Y la participación de los papás es súper importante, ¿no? Los papás trabajan en hacer trabajos así de mantenimiento, en talleres, en la bienvenida a los niños, entre otras actividades.
Gracias, Nicolás. ¿Crees que podrías ahora cerrar la presentación así tenemos tiempo para algunas preguntas?
Sí, muchísimas gracias. Ahí tenemos el número de contacto para los amigos que puedan visitar. Muy agradecido por este espacio y sí, si hubiera alguna pregunta, algo que quieran compartir, con gusto.
So he was saying that the involvement of the parents is fundamental for them, and the families are really involved, helping even in the construction of the classrooms, in the designs of the spaces. So it's a very, very communal effort. And he's saying that he's very thankful for being here today, for all of your attention, and that these are their contacts in case you want to contact them, but also if you want to know more, you can also contact Sumire or me, and we can put you in contact with them or the authorities. And now we may have a few minutes for questions for Nicolas.
I've posted a question. Excuse the
Yes.
translation, but nevertheless.
I will do it. So, Nicolás, preguntan si podés contarnos un poquito sobre la pedagogía matemática indígena. ¿Cómo se diferencia la forma en que ustedes enseñan matemática?
Bueno, una característica de las matemáticas andinas, diríamos, es de que la matemática es concreta y vivencial. Lo contrario, digamos, a lo que es la matemática moderna, ¿no? Es abstracta y muy compleja, ¿no?
A ver, so he's saying that an important characteristic of Andean mathematics is that it's concrete and experiential, as opposed to modern Western mathematics, which is abstract and complex. ¿Algo más, Nicolás?
Sí, entonces las operaciones, digamos, aritméticas, la suma, la resta, también son acciones ahí concretas, ¿no?
¿Nos
Que se
darías un
dan,
ejemplo para entenderlo?
por ejemplo, voy a hablar de algo, a ver, de la división, digamos, ¿no? El concepto de división es dividir en partes iguales, ¿verdad? Entonces, para nosotros, la división se da de diferentes maneras en el contexto andino, ¿ya? O sea, no hay una división
Ajá.
escapa totalmente, digamos, a los principios de la matemática universal. Entonces, es un poco más complejo, digamos, de entenderlo, pero es mucho más práctico.
So he's saying that this would be a little complex to explain, but that basically he believes their type of mathematical is more practical, and so that as an example, they have many different ways in which they can divide numbers, and there's different methods that they use to divide. And I know, for example, that they have something which they call quipus, which is a way that the Incas kept track of accounting a very big sums of money and transactions. And it's a type of mathematics that, kind of similar to an abacus, it uses knots in woven fabrics. And that's a whole mathematical system that I don't even understand, but it's very practical for them. Genial, gracias, Nicolás. Te hago otra pregunta.
Thank you so much, Francisco and Nicolas. It was really wonderful to have you here. And, since the morning, we've been having so many aha moments. Like, as every speaker speaks about their own culture, practices, and pedagogies, all of us from Bharat are like, yes, this so much resonates with what, we understand about our own culture and tradition and educational pedagogies. So thank you for the beautiful presentation. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So though we were not able to understand the language, nevertheless the pictures sort of brought it out well. And thank you, Francisco, for the translation. That was really helpful. So we have the next speaker here. So please do,
Sorry, may I translate this because that's okay. Nicolás, Sumire dice que te agradece mucho tu participación acá, que desde la mañana están escuchando a muchos educadores indígenas y teniendo muchos momentos de ajá, que resuenan mucho con lo que mostraste y que agradece mucho las fotos que valen más que 1000 palabras. Así que te agradece mucho por estar hoy aquí. Y hay muchas preguntas más en el chat que no tenemos tiempo de responder, pero como que se quedaron con mucho interés de todo lo que compartiste.
Sí, espero que haya otro momento en el que podamos de repente seguir compartiendo estas experiencias, al igual que ir aprendiendo también de las diferentes experiencias que tienen que mostrar los hermanos, ¿no?
So he's saying, Nicolas saying he's very thankful and that he would love further opportunities to share with you and also to learn from everything that you could share with him.
Yeah, we hope to visit his Gurukulam sometime. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Pillay son collay.
Yeah,
Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias, Francisco. Hasta otra oportunidad, entonces.
Gracias, Nicolás. Cuídate.
Gracias.